Welcome, City Biz viewers. I'm Tammi Thomas, TechCo's Chief Development and Marketing Officer. At TechCo, we are deeply committed to fostering innovation and economic growth in Maryland, and the Baltimore Development Corporation, also known as the BDC, plays a critical role in these efforts within Baltimore City. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Colin Tarbert, President and CEO of the BDC. Under Colin's leadership, the BDC supported key projects like the renovation of CFG Bank Arena and the redevelopment of Lexington Market. Colin has also been instrumental in the city's economic recovery, overseeing $30 million in aid to small businesses post-pandemic. In this dynamic discussion today, we'll explore Colin's professional journey, his recent certified economic developer designation, and its impact on his work. We'll also discuss the unique challenges and opportunities of economic development in Baltimore, the importance of collaboration between organizations like TechCo and the BDC, and Colin's vision for the city's future. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's dive in. Colin, can you share a bit about your professional journey that led you to your leadership role at the Baltimore Development Corporation?
Sure. Thank you, Tammi, and thank you, CityBiz, for having me. So literally 20 years ago, I think this month, I started at BDC as an intern, as what they called a mayoral fellowship under then Mayor O'Malley. And so that was really when I got introduced to economic development and the BDC. And I guess the rest is history. But to fill in a little bit of the history, I actually worked here for that summer and then worked in the private sector for a little bit, came back to BDC when there was an opportunity to join the staff full time, and spent 4 years working as an economic development officer. So I know what the team here does day in, day out, which is helpful in my current role, of course, when I need to jump in. And between that time and now, I worked in the mayor's office, but I've been back at BDC for the last 5 years. Privileged to lead the organization.
Wow, that's phenomenal. 20 years. That's about how much time I've been in the state of Maryland. That's phenomenal.
I was 10 years old when that. No.
Right. Me too. Okay. So Colin, congratulations again on your recent certified economic developer designation. But for those that don't know about this designation, could you explain what this certification means and why it is important in the field of economic development?
Sure. So the International Economic Development Council, IEDC, is our trade organization, professional organization that focuses on economic development internationally, primarily Canada and the U.S. And so they offer this designation, which is a professional credential for folks like me and others in economic development. You don't get a master's degree in economic development necessarily. There's economists, which are different than what we do. And so this is an opportunity for professionals like me to kind of earn the reputation, the credential, but also to make sure that we have a wide range of understanding of economic development, because economic development in large cities like Baltimore versus rural areas, other parts of Maryland, for example, are very different in terms of what they need in economic development. But so understanding all of those pieces is really important, and as well as just basically just a lot of what we do is relationships and people, and knowing your city and understanding the businesses and the real estate. But there is a process to it as well, so it's not just like completely by the seat of your pants. There's actually a formula for how to approach different issues, whether it's a business expansion or retention or attraction, or you have a real estate project that needs to get redeveloped. There's proven ways to do that. And so getting the certification takes you through all of that kind of from a textbook standpoint. And then also it helps you network with other folks around the country that are taking on these challenges as well.
The state of Maryland really has a strong support for this type of designation through the Maryland Economic Development Association. And I was just wondering if you could just expound a little bit more about how this certification after you've obtained it, how it might have influenced your approach or your strategy at the BDC. And I was saying, even though we know that this is a recent certification for you, you've been going after it for a little while. So how is having this designation might have changed your approach a little bit?
Yeah, and the designation it takes a couple of years to get it because you have to do six classes, as you're aware of, and then you have to have so much years of experience in the profession. And so, Mita, as you mentioned, they actually teach the one of the courses in the program, which I took, which is the basic course offered every summer. And so, yeah, I think going through it kind of from a textbook standpoint. Most recently, actually, there's a whole section, and I took the exam at the beginning of March, um, and so leading up to it, I've been studying the couple months beforehand, and there's actually a very large section on emergency disaster planning, response, all the programs at the federal level that are available to you, kind of what happens in a moment of crisis, and having gone through, COVID and some other, acute incidences that have happened. I was familiar with it, but having like read all of it, you know, it was somewhat serendipitous, unfortunate with the Key Bridge collapse, but it was like, oh well, this is like super fresh in my memory, and so knowing that we were going to establish a disaster recovery center with Small Business Administration (SBA) and set up the loans and stuff, just kind of was a great like refresher and like, okay, there is a process for this. There are tools available, and here's how in my role of local economic development, how we can plug into what was really a federal, state, and local response. So that was kind of one immediate benefit of having studied and gotten up to speed on that aspect of the exam.
Thank you for that clarification. I want to now move into an area about unique challenges for Baltimore. So Baltimore is a city with unique economic and social dynamics. What specific challenges and wonderful opportunities do you face here compared to other cities?
How much time do we have? Yeah, this is why I wake up every day, right? And why I live here in the city, and I'm so passionate about it because Baltimore it's unique in a lot of ways, and it's also very similar to a lot of other cities in the United States. And so, kind of understanding it as you framed it, the challenges yet the opportunities. I mean, some are kind of the same in one, right? I think like from a unique standpoint, again, not unique to Baltimore alone, but in terms of dealing with it in context. We're a city like a former Rust Belt city, so we've changed from a manufacturing to a new knowledge-based economy and tourism and services. A lot of cities have had to do that as manufacturing is drastically changed. We also have a very um, deep history of redlining and racial discrimination in Baltimore. We are unique in terms of the set of cities in the United States that we are a black majority city. There are others, but there's only a number of those cities, and so I think like what we're wrestling with is the past and how we move into a future that we want to create that is one that is different from other cities, but one that we can be really excited and inspired by. And so
Yes.
again, that's dealing with disinvestment across the cities. It's dealing with these racial disparities that continue to persist. But the opportunity is to actually right those wrongs and to transform Baltimore into a city that is thriving, exciting, it's inclusive, it's equitable, and I think we're on our way to doing that. It's not easy, it takes time, but there is a commitment that I haven't seen in my 20 years, haven't been here right now that is moving us in that direction. And I think even with more kind of speed and urgency.
I agree. I grew up in so many states: Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, and California. And Baltimore is one of the most powerful, energetic cities I've ever experienced. You think of it as a college town with all these great colleges, but also the entertainment and sports to have football and baseball here, and the museums, the aquarium. Like it's a special city. I guess that's why folks call it the Charm City, right? It's like the best place to live in, to live and also grow your business. It's like
We have like
amazing.
all the ingredients that you would want in any major metropolitan area in terms of the arts, the cultures, the entertainment, everything you just said, but within like a very local, small town feel that you're part of the community. And I think that's kind of the exciting part for Baltimore. And even as we grow, and even as we've got almost $7 billion of new investment that's planned in the downtown and within the downtown area. We're working really hard to make sure that we don't lose the charm, right? That we don't look and feel like, whatever suburb or city USA. We want to be Baltimore. We want to be authentic. When you come here, you're going to get crabs. You're going to be called hunt. We've got all that fun stuff, and so far, like we haven't lost any of that, even as we've kind of grown and investments grown, and the waterfront has changed dramatically, and the knowledge-based economy has come in, and we've got startups thanks to Tedco. We haven't lost that kind of down home Baltimore character.
Yes, I love how BDC is helping to grow the city in an intentional way that stays inclusive while also keeping the magical feel of Baltimore. But that leads me into the next set of questions. This one is around collaboration and partnerships. Okay, so we know that economic development often involves multiple stakeholders like TechCo. But Colin, how do you foster this collaboration between local government, businesses, higher education, and communities?
Yeah, it's great. It does. I think one of the reasons why economic development is so fun uh, to work in is because it's like you deal with so many different people from so many different kind of walks of life and backgrounds that you're always learning something. And so, collaboration's key. Like BDC, we're one piece of a larger puzzle. So we need partners like Tedco. Um, and so I think what we've done is to try to make it much more intentional. I think like in the past, at least in my experience, the collaboration has been a little bit ad hoc. We have an idea. Oh, ran into somebody. We should do that. So when I started here at BDC roughly 5 years ago, as you know, we have our comprehensive economic development strategy, Baltimore Together, which hence the name means bringing everyone together. And so what we've tried to do is not necessarily even uh, lead in terms of being in charge, so to speak, but lead in terms of just helping create a framework for more intentional collaboration and more consistent collaboration. And so that's really what Baltimore Together is about. It's about let's pull what everyone's working on, make sure they know what's working on, what everyone else is working on. There's so much overlap that sometimes you're in your silo, you're in your zone, you forget to reach out, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, we're doing that too. And so, even though Baltimore to me is a relatively kind of accessible and small city, um, I still find people, especially in Baltimore, everyone east and west, right? It's like they're almost like two sides of the same city that no one seems to collaborate. So you're always saying, "Did you talk to so and so?" They say, "Oh no, I don't know so and so yet." Oh my gosh, and it really does make a difference. And so we've tried to foster that collaboration and be a catalyst for it, as well as obviously have to partner with private sector and businesses in particular, but also the political side of what we work on in terms of legislation and policy, and then partners like you that are working in the economic development space.
Thank you. So BDC is doing an awesome job of being a phenomenal, connector, like you were seeing with the between the collaborations and the partnerships. But wondering, how do you measure the success of your economic development initiatives, and are there any key metrics or outcomes you focus on? Because you know, folks, when they go to your website, it's phenomenal. Your dashboards is so insightful.
Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that we were measuring and tracking progress. So there's kind of different components to it. There's uh, really what we're focusing on is the highline metrics, which are not necessarily like the actions, right? The actions are trying to get us to these big metrics, and so we were very intentional about what metrics we chose. So we have a set of metrics that link back to 7 specific goals for the city. And so the metrics are focused on inclusive, equitable goals. And so I'll just kind of give you an example of what that means for us when we're trying to grow the city and improve the economics of the city. We want to see incomes rise for households, right? But we want to make sure that we're doing it in an intentional way. And so our specific metric is we want to basically, we're measuring black household income and white household income. There's a huge disparity. The goal is to have no disparity. And so we're measuring that year over year, and we'll see where we're tracking. And so there's a series of those that are, based on jobs, that are based on investment across the city, but particularly in formerly, red line disinvested areas. And so it's not just, is the city growing and are we creating a bunch of jobs? It's really about, like, what's the quality of those jobs? Who's getting those jobs? Where is this investment being placed? Are we being thoughtful about it? And so we have a fairly objective way to do that with metrics that we don't really fully control, right? Those aspects. But then we've got a whole bunch of actions that we're tracking that we think will get us there. And that way, year over year, if it's not working, then we need to be honest about it and say, we're doing all this stuff, but we're not moving the needle in the right direction. Maybe we need to think about it differently. And so we do that on an annual basis. We try to bring together the community at large, kind of open to the public, share where we are, results, and just have those conversations. Generally, they're really positive and people are excited and they're seeing the progress. But then in some areas where we're falling short, it's okay, maybe we need to think differently or do more or work harder or redirect resources. So
I love it. It's like teamwork makes the dream work. You're leaving no community behind. You're involving. You're again, BDC is phenomenal with being inclusive, listening to people, listening to the communities, and coming up with solutions that work for everybody. I just love it. So that leads us into an area that I want to call like your future vision. So looking forward, Colin, what are some of the major goals or projects you aim to achieve in the next few years in Baltimore?
yeah, there's a lot in the strategy, and there's probably a lot of things that are opportunities that we don't even know about that we want to take advantage of. But there's a lot to do, which in some ways is exciting, and in the other ways can be daunting. But I mean, some of the big projects that we have coming up, and what I like now is we're moving in a way where we've got these kind of large, iconic projects, which I'll mention a few of those, um, but we're doing it in a way where we're trying to help the small business be part of that. So it's not just about a big project that makes the front page, but it's about all the small things that you can do with that project to help small businesses in the city, entrepreneurs, residents, etc. And so a couple of the big projects that we're excited to work on is Harbor Place. That's certainly been an exciting
Yes.
thing. It was kind of the grand vision was revealed last fall. There's been a lot of community outreach and conversations and dialogues about that. So that goes to the referendum. It actually requires a charter amendment to redevelop the waterfront, which is on city property, city land that BDC oversees. But assuming that gets passed and the vision comes to fruition, that's going to be a huge dynamic change for the downtown and really kind of help catalyze a lot of development that's planned or has happened. We had mentioned Lexington Market, CFG Bank Arena. Those are two big projects that are downtown. You now have a new Orioles owner and the stadium upgrades that are happening. And so now the goal is really, how do we tie all of these projects together to create one seamless downtown? But as we do that, it's thinking like intentionally. So even before the project gets started at Harbor Place, they've leased a number of spaces at the existing pavilion, focusing on minority and women-owned businesses, which is kind of a great indicator of, again, like what we're trying to do. Big project, but impacting small businesses as well. So that's a big one that's coming up. Recently, through the legislature, the redevelopment of Pimlico, home of the Preakness, is getting underway, and so BDC is in discussions with the racing authority to play a role in redeveloping some of the land around that property that isn't needed specifically for the racetrack, and again trying to figure out how do we do it in a way that helps impact the communities, the surrounding neighborhoods for that project. So hopefully there will be more on that later this year. We're working on moving our public access TV channel, Charm TV, from downtown in the Inner Harbor to the Black Arts District in Penn North, which is an exciting project. So trying to use that, the Mayor's Office of Cable and Communication, as a economic development catalyst in a community that needs investment. So we're in design for that, and hopefully can put together the funding and break ground in 2025. And then lastly, I'll just start talking about some of the policy work that we're doing. We're trying to figure out how to do a loan loss reserve fund, which people have talked about for a long time for small businesses. So there's a lot of small businesses that end up tending to be minority and women-owned businesses, or others that have credit score issues, and they just can't access capital from traditional sources, even from some of the CDFIs that we work with. And so we have funding from the SBA, Small Businesses Administration, to create a loan loss reserve fund, and we're trying to collaborate with the state to leverage a number of resources to be able to get that capital to businesses that we think are not really credit risk, but based on paper and the way you've got to underwrite them, they tend to get left behind. So that's kind of a snapshot of a lot of things we have coming up. As you can see, it's kind of all over the map, but it's exciting.
But the reason it's all over the map is that is one size doesn't fit all, and you're trying to make sure that you have enough resources to capitalize on all of these different opportunities and have solutions for these different challenges. And I'm just getting excited listening to what you have to say. I wanted, just for the City Biz listeners that might not know about TechCo, we are statewide. We help to identify, invest in, and grow technology and life science startups in Maryland. And we've made quite a few investments in founders that have their companies in Baltimore. And again, Baltimore is not just a great place to grow your business, but it's a great place to live as you're growing your business. Many of the things that Colin just mentioned, like the CFG arena, I've gone there several times. They did a renovation. I went to the Janet Jackson concert, the Stevie Nicks concert, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'm going to the Baltimore Orioles game tomorrow. I plan to go to the Preakness. So, as a venture capitalist, this is like the dream place to live, because you're doing all of this stuff by the water. I mean, it's just phenomenal. You just get so excited. Okay, let me get back and be focused. It's just like Baltimore is just a place to be. All right. So, Colin, we talked a little bit about the future, your future vision. But can you, now let's go towards some lessons learned. What are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned in your role that might benefit other cities looking to revitalize their economy so they can be like Baltimore?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, we've done. I feel like we certainly have, as we talked about some of our challenges, but we've also done a lot of things right. And we have a history of that well predates me. I mean, I was fortunate enough to come to an organization that had a great track record. So we mentioned Harbor Place and redeveloping it. Well, this organization really kind of got its start from Charles Center redevelopment, which was one of the first major redevelopment projects I guess it was in the late 50s that it came together. And then the Inner Harbor came after that. And so this organization really put together those pieces, and then ultimately formed out of some other organizations into what we know today as BDC. So we have this kind of great legacy of being able to, in some ways, be ahead of the curve. You think about the waterfront, it was, a brownfield, it was industrial, and the city leaders at the time said, we should make it a tourist destination. Everyone said, you got to be crazy, right? I think that's the same way that we look at some of the neighborhoods that people might drive through and not think are areas that anybody would want to live. We're seeing the complete opposite. People want to live in those communities. They want to see the beautiful historic architecture that exists there come back and be part of that restoration. I did a tour yesterday with the mayor and a number of business leaders in West Baltimore on a block that had been basically vacant, and a local Black developer has rehabbed just about every house on that block. And it's beautiful, and the architecture is something that you cannot replicate anymore. And so, I think people kind of pass by those neighborhoods and don't quite see what others see. And so it's really exciting. And so I think the lesson learned is you got to stick with it. It takes a long time. The projects that I'm describing, they're going to take years. And so anybody that kind of does this work, you just have to have the patience to see it through. But you can do it. And we talked about collaboration. It takes an army to kind of figure out how to do this. It takes the private sector, the nonprofit sector, government, quasi organizations like ours to put all of the pieces together. Um, so I would do that. I also wanted to mention, because we didn't touch on it, I don't think, but the Emerging Technology Center is another exciting chapter that's coming up, and so that's going to be obviously a really close strategic partnership with TEDCO as we launch our venture studio concept with Dr. Santhova, who of course was your colleague at TEDCO, and so that's another exciting way for BDC to kind of drive a different type of investment in terms of more of the venture capital into Baltimore in our unique way, and try to be a piece of this overall puzzle. So I didn't want to leave that unmentioned.
Oh, thank you for that. And I want to just lean into one of the things that you were saying about working with the different stakeholders. And I think that that's one of the lessons learned that can be shared with others in other municipalities, other states that are trying to do something similar. The beauty again about the Baltimore Development Corporation is that they're so willing to collaborate. And as Colin was saying, sometimes they lead, but sometimes they don't. But they're bringing different stakeholders to the table that bring the resources to take a project forward. And not only do you achieve so much, you get the milestones, but the beauty about it from the Baltimore perspective, at least somebody who used to live in other places, that it looks like they're having fun while they're doing it. It's like people are really rolling up their sleeves and being innovative and creative and having fun while they are putting these big projects together. So just wanted to add that.
But most days are fun.
Look, with all of the different places to go eat and drink and just the entertainment, the museums, the aquariums, it's like the spaces and places that the folks in Baltimore have to go to meet, to have these discussions, to work on these projects are also amazing. That's part of the uniqueness, I think, of Baltimore. It's just it's special. It's a charm city. Okay, so let's go into the next question. And this one is I want to stay in this part about the lessons learned. I want you to give some advice for aspiring folks for this the type of certification you have. So what kind of advice, Colin, would you give to professionals who are considering pursuing the economic development certification?
Well, study for the exam. That's definitely part of it. I felt like I was back in school. I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot how intense this can be. But that aside, yeah, I think it's really something wonderful to go for, because you learn all aspects of economic development, and you have to take 6 classes or courses to get certified. But there's additional courses offered, so you can even do more than the 6. And I just found it helpful because, I mean, they literally did kind of write the textbook on what we do, but like I said, they didn't really teach this in school. And even I think for anybody who's a professional and kind of, I guess I'm sort of mid-career at this point, like I'm still clearly learning. And so it's just an opportunity to get good professional advice in areas that you might not get it. So just there's a whole class on managing an economic development organization, which for me being the CEO, no one really told me how to do that. You somewhat learn it as you're going, and so to have the ability to kind of actually have a manual, so to speak, to know here are the different components, and then to do a course with your colleagues to talk about what challenges they're having in management and leadership is just super helpful, and it kind of gives you again kind of more credibility, I think, in the eyes of your clients. So when someone kind of comes into BDC, having the CECD certification they know that I've studied this, and that that I'm a trusted resource. That's one thing that, especially doing economic development and working with businesses, they want credibility, they want reputation, and they want predictability. And so being able to demonstrate that is super helpful. So I would tell wherever you are in your career. I was the CEO when I decided to go get certified. There's others that are doing it much earlier in their career. It really doesn't matter where you are. It's just an opportunity to learn and fill in the gaps where you might not have skills, and be part of that larger community of resources.
Thank you, Colin. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up with this last question. So, for many of us who know you, respect you, admire you, we probably already know the answer to this one. But I just want to make sure that we get this out there to the City Biz viewers. And this is going to be about your personal motivation. Okay, so Colin, what personally motivates you to work in economic development, but especially in a vibrant city like Charm City, Baltimore?
Yeah. Well, it's personal for me. So my family is from Baltimore. Um, I think my grandmother she's since passed. She passed away last year at 103. But she was born in the house that is still in our family in Remington, which of course looks completely different now. So we've been here for a couple generations, and I've always loved the city. I think it's kind of I think when you grow up here and you just know it, like you kind of, you don't see what other people see, and sometimes both the good and the bad. But I just always loved Baltimore, and I just thought it was like the coolest city because we had so much character and we had all this opportunity. I never kind of looked at it in a negative way. And I remember one of my architecture professors, we were like doing a tour of DC, and this was a little while ago, but DC was still was flourishing at that point. And I said something like, she goes, "Oh, I'd much rather live in DC." And I was like, "What? Really? You rather live in?" I was like, "I would love to live in Baltimore." She's like, "Baltimore," and you still sometimes get that because of people's impressions off the wire or something. But then when they get here, they're like, "Oh my god!" Like they just say all the things that you say. Like they're just like, "Oh, this is so cool," and you can actually buy a house and those types of things. So for me, it's always been like really personal. Like I've always just seen the potential, and I know like we still have more to aspire to, and we're headed in that direction. But I've just always loved the city, kind of even as it has been, but then being able to improve it and work towards that every day, and try to work in the areas that have been disinvested is just a passion of mine. And it really started in college. I would come up every weekend into Habitat for Humanity over in Sandtown, and just like I just loved kind of restoring these townhouses and these communities. And so now I get to do that kind of on a much broader scale, and hopefully it improves the city and it improves people, and just trying to play my part.
Thank you, because it's like I can't imagine again a more special city. It's not only just a college town, but like if you're a nerd or a cool nerd, like um, self I self identify as a cool nerd. Think about it. The Librarian of Congress came out of Pratt Street Library, out of Baltimore. I mean, that's just amazing. You can go to it's just the museums, the Reggie Lewis Museum, the Baltimore Museum of Art. I mean, it's just and there's so many things to do even for free because we have so many universities that have plays and concerts and stuff out of Baltimore between your 4 year, your top research institutions, your HBCUs, your community colleges. I mean, and again, the water. Where else can you go where all of this stuff is in a small radius? It's just the food is phenomenal. I can't even if I we lived all over the place. I couldn't imagine if I had at least three generations coming out of Baltimore. I would be telling everybody, like everywhere I go, I'd be like, "Yep, I'm from Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore." I can say I'm Baltimore adjacent.
I had lunch at Deep Pasquale's, the new location. I mean, I think they've been in Highlandtown for, I don't know, like 100 years or something, and it's like it's doing gangbusters. So it's so fun to have that, and then you have all the new restaurants that you have with in Harbor East and everything. So we have this kind of best kept secret in a lot of ways. Although I think that secret's getting out, and so that's kind of goes back to why I'm so passionate about trying to do this inclusively, so that we don't have the exacerbation of affordable housing and some of these other issues that cities are really dealing with, where they've got so much immigration. They're losing a lot of their character, and they're putting a strain on a lot of the residents who have been there for the long haul. And so, I think that's Baltimore's opportunity in the next 5 to 10 years. Is as we do, I'm pretty sure we are going to be growing and attracting and getting investment. We have the opportunity to make sure we shape that in a way that resonates across the community.
Well, I love it. I'm so thankful to have you as one of our extreme respected leaders in Baltimore. TechCo loves working with BDC. And for all of those City Biz listeners that are out there today, thank you for joining us. If you need more information about BDC, please go to baltimoredevelopment.com. That's their website. You'll see so much information, including all of the different metrics that Colin talked about, the different initiatives they have, how you can do business in Baltimore, how you can start and grow your business, how you can, if you already have one and you need to come to Maryland, you're looking for a home, Baltimore is your place to be. So again, thank you so much, Colin, for joining us today. This has been fantastic. I'm Tammi Thomas with TechCo, signing out.